Good morning, students. Welcome to second part of our discussions on the topic of thermodynamics. The previous video lesson was an introductory lesson in which we understood a couple of topics related to the chapter of thermodynamics. Today we will continue further in this lesson. Let's begin today's discussion by studying how to find out work done during expansion. Now for this we need to refer to the diagram that is coming right now on your screen. Let us consider a gas enclosed in a cylinder provided with a frictionless and weightless piston. Suppose that the gas undergoes expansion from the initial state A corresponding to pressure P1 and volume V1 to the final state B when the pressure and volume become P2 and V2 respectively. Now let us calculate the work done by the gas. Suppose at any instant during the expansion, the pressure and volume of the gas are P and V respectively, as you can see in the figure. Further, suppose that the piston moves through infinitesimally small distance dx. It moves through an infinitesimally small distance dx against the constant pressure P, so that the volume becomes V plus dV. I repeat once again, the piston moves through infinitesimally small distance dx against the constant pressure P, so that the volume becomes V plus dV. Then when the piston moves through infinitesimally small distance dx against the constant pressure P, so that volume becomes V plus dV, then small work done dW will be equal to force on piston multiplied by small distance moved. Now if small a, as you can see in the diagram, small a is area of cross section of the piston, so if A is the area of the piston, then force on piston will be equal to pressure into area, that is P into A. Therefore work done dW, that is force into displacement. Now since area into length, that is equal to volume, the small dV is the small increase in volume of the gas. Therefore we can write down dW to be equal to P dV. Therefore the total work done during the expansion of the gas from the initial state A to the final state B can be obtained by integrating this equation between the limits V1 to V2. So the total work done, W, will be equal to integral over the limits v1 to v2, that is the initial volume to final volume, integral PdV. So as I had already told you in the previous lesson, during expansion work is done by the gas and hence it is positive. In case of compression, work is done on the gas and it is negative. Suppose we want to find the area of an indicated diagram to find the work done. Suppose this is the graph for pressure and volume. Let us plot the values. So by indicated diagram, how to find it out? Suppose that the initial state P1 and V1 and the final state are P2 and V2 of the system are represented by the points A and B on the PV diagram. So let us consider any point A on the indicated diagram and P and V be the values of pressure and volume corresponding to it. Suppose that volume increases to V plus dV corresponding to point B on the indicated diagram such that the pressure remains constant. Then A dash is equal to B dash that is constant pressure on the system, and A dash B dash will be equal to dV, that is the increase in volume. So now small work done during the change of the system from the state small a to small b, small a to small b, that is dW will be equal to PdV, and that is equal to A dash multiplied by A dash B dash. So this shall be equal to the area of the strip A, B, B dash, A dash. The total work done by the gas during expansion from the initial state capital A, that is P1 V1, to final state capital B P2 V2 can be obtained by adding the areas of all strips like AB B dash A dash formed between A dash and B dash under the PV diagram. So obviously total work done W will be equal to area A B B dash A dash. So work done by a system is numerically equal to the area under the PV diagram. During expansion, the work done is traced, or the area is traced in clockwise direction. So if area under PV diagram is traced in clockwise direction, then work done will be positive and will be negative during compression if the area is traced in anti-clockwise direction. Now let us find out work done during a cyclic process. Suppose that the gas enclosed in a cylinder is expanded from the initial state A to the final state B along the path AXB. Let W1 be the work done during expansion. Then, just now we have studied, we can give work done by area. So W1 will be equal to area AXB BAA. During expansion of the gas, work is done by the system, which according to the sign convention has been taken as positive. Now the gas is compressed from the state B to state A along the path BYA, so that we can return the system to the initial state A. If W2 is the work done during compression, then W2 will be equal to minus of area BY A B B. During the compression of the gas, work is done on the system, which according to sign convention has been taken as negative. Therefore, net amount of work done along the cyclic path AXBYA, that should be equal to W, that is W1 plus W2. On substituting the values, we get W to be equal to area AXBBAA minus area BYAABB, and that is equal to area AXBYA. Thus, net amount of work done along a cyclic path is numerically equal to the area of the cyclic path. As you can see in the figure, this area comes out to be positive. Net work will be done by the system. And it may be noted that the cyclic path has been traced in clockwise direction, and expansion curve AXB lies above the compression curve BYA. Now, if one draws a cyclic path in anti-clockwise direction, the expansion curve will be below the compression curve. The net work done will turn out to be again equal to the area of the cyclic path, but it will be negative. It would mean that in such a case, work is done on the system. So for a cyclic process, if the cyclic path is traced in clockwise direction or the expansion curve lies above the compression curve, work will be done by the system. And if the cyclic path is traced in anti-clockwise direction or the expansion curve lies below the compression curve, the work will be done on the system. Let's understand the first law of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics is in fact the law of conservation of energy. According to the law of conservation of energy, the energy can neither be created nor it can be destroyed, but can change itself from one form to another. The first law of thermodynamics extends this law so as to include heat energy and internal energy of the system. So according to first law of thermodynamics, if an amount of heat dQ is added to a system, a part of it may increase its internal energy by an amount dU, while the remaining part may be used up as the external work dW done by the system. Thus, if dQ, dU and dW all are in same units, then dQ is equal to dU plus dW. Now, let us consider this figure. Suppose a gas is enclosed in a cylinder provided with a frictionless and weightless piston. Suppose that corresponding to the initial state A, pressure and volume of the gas are P and V respectively. Further, suppose that the piston moves through an infinitesimally small distance dx at constant pressure P, so that its volume in the final state B becomes V plus dV. Then small amount of work done dW will be equal to F dx, that is force on the piston multiplied by displacement. Now if small a be the area of the piston, then force on the piston will be equal to pressure into area. Therefore, work done, small work done dW will be equal to PA dx. Now A dx is the small change in volume, that is dV, so dW is equal to PdV. So now from first law of thermodynamics, dq is equal to du plus dw. So we can write down dq to be equal to du plus p dv. Now we can get the sign of dq, du and dw from the sign convention. So work done by a system is taken as positive, while work done on the system is taken as negative. Heat gained by a system is taken as positive, while the heat lost or extracted by the system is taken as negative. Increase in internal energy of a system is taken as positive, while the decrease in internal energy is taken as negative. Let us understand some applications of the first law of thermodynamics. First of all, let us apply it to a cyclic process. Now, in a cyclic process, the system returns to its initial state at the end of the cycle. Now, as you can see in the graph, this shows a cyclic process in which the system proceeds from the state A to B along the path X and then returns back to the initial state A along the path Y. Obviously, the change in internal energy of the system along the complete cyclic process is 0. So, in this case, du is equal to 0. Therefore, for a cyclic process, the first law of thermodynamics, dq equal to du plus dw, becomes dq equal to 0 plus pdv. Or we can write down dq, we can write down dq equal to p dv. That is, in a cyclic process, the heat supplied to the gas is wholly converted into work, and the area of the cyclic process is numerically equal to the work done during the process. Applying first law of thermodynamics to boiling process. When a liquid is applied heat, it starts boiling at a particular temperature called its boiling point. Now, at boiling point, when pressure is kept constant, the unit mass of the liquid requires a definite amount of heat energy to change from liquid to vapor state. The amount of heat supplied is called latent heat of vaporization of the liquid. Now, let us consider a liquid of mass m at a temperature equal to its boiling point. Let P be the constant external pressure at which it is boiling and L be the latent heat. So M is the mass of liquid, P is the pressure, del is the latent heat of vaporization. Then amount of heat required to convert whole of the liquid into vapor. So if it is represented by delta Q, that should be equal to M into L. Now from the first law of thermodynamics, we know that heat absorbed is equal to increase in internal energy plus external work performed. So if Ui and Uf are initial and final internal energy, and Vi and Vf be the initial and final volume, then increase in internal energy, it should be equal to Uf minus Ui, and external work done delta W should be equal to P dV, that is P into Vf minus Vi. Therefore, we can write down that delta Q, which is equal to M into L, that is equal to change in internal energy plus external work done. So this is how we can represent the first law of thermodynamics for the boiling process. This is how we will represent it for a cyclic process. Now, let us get some information regarding the two specific heats of a gas. The specific heat of a substance is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of its unit mass through 1 degree centigrade or 1 degree Kelvin. Now, this definition holds good for both solids and liquids. It is because when heat is supplied to a solid or a liquid, it goes into it to produce an increase in the temperature only, without causing any practical change in its volume or pressure. Accordingly, a solid or a liquid undergoes a definite rise in temperature when supplied a given amount of heat. However, it is not true with gases. When a gas is heated, the volume and pressure may also change with increase in temperature. Hence, a gas can have any value of specific heat depending upon the condition under which it is heated. So that specific heat of a gas has a definite meaning. It can be defined in two ways. We have specific heat of a gas at constant volume, and then we have specific heat of a gas at constant pressure. How to define it? Specific heat of a gas at constant volume. It is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a gas through 1 degree Celsius at constant volume. Now it is denoted by CV. Now then we have molar specific heat at constant volume. What is it equal to? It is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of a gas through 1 degree Celsius at constant volume. Now it is represented by CV. This is capital C. So if M is the molecular weight of the gas, then CV is equal to M times CV. Similarly, specific heat of a gas at constant pressure. It is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a gas through 1 degree Celsius at constant pressure. It is represented by Cp. Now this is small letter. Similarly, we can have molar specific heat of a gas at constant pressure. How to define it? It is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of a gas through 1 degree Celsius at a constant pressure, denoted by capital letter C with a subscript P. So again we can write down Cp to be equal to mCp. Let us obtain a relation between two specific heats of a gas using first law of thermodynamics. Now consider 1 mole of an ideal gas. Suppose that the gas is heated at constant volume so that its temperature increases by dT. So if dQ is the amount of heat supplied, then dQ will be equal to, since it is 1 mole, so 1 into CV into dt. Or we can write down dQ to be equal to CV dt. Now as the gas is heated at constant volume, it will not perform any external work at constant volume. External work done is 0. So as per law of thermodynamics, the first law of thermodynamics, dq is equal to du plus dw. So this implies dq will be equal to du plus 0, or we can write down dq to be equal to du. So therefore, from equation 1, we can write down du to be equal to how much? Cv dt. Now, If now the gas is heated at constant pressure so as to increase its temperature by dt, we will heat the gas at constant pressure so as to again increase its temperature by dt. So if now dq dash is the amount of heat supplied, then at constant pressure should be given like this. This means that dq dash is equal to cp dt. Now the heat supplied at constant pressure increases the temperature of the gas by dt, that is, increases its internal energy by du, and as well as enables the gas to perform work dw. So if the corresponding increase in volume of the gas is dv, then work performed dw is equal to pdv. Now again, according to law of thermodynamics, I am writing dq dash is equal to du plus dw. So now I can write down dq dash is equal to cp dt. Du, if you remember, it is cv dt, and dw is pdv. Now for 1 mole of perfect gas, PV is equal to RT. The heat dq dash is supplied to the gas at constant pressure P. Therefore, differentiating both sides of this equation with respect to temperature T by treating pressure as constant, we obtain d by dt of PV equal to d by dt of RT. Or we can write down, since pressure is constant, P dV by dt equal to R. So we get P dV equal to R dt. So now we can write down, therefore, Cp dt is equal to Cv dt plus dw. Instead of writing P dV, we will write down R dt. Therefore, we get Cp is equal to Cv plus R, or we can write down Cp minus Cv is equal to R. So this shows that Cp is greater than Cv. This will be all for today's video lesson. Thank you.